All right. What leaders do in the workplace fundamentally impacts the lives of their teams. This is the truth for many, many people. And I'm going to argue that it spreads farther than just their team. And I have Andrew Stout here. He's going to tell us a little bit more about himself and about his role as an HR leadership consultant and why these statistics here really matter to not only him, the workplaces that he helps, but also you and how you're running everything that you do in your day-to-day as a leader. Welcome, Andrew. I'd love for you to dive into all things you. Tell us a little bit about yourself and why leadership matters.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andrew. I am originally from Montreal, Quebec, now living out west in Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan, to be exact. I love leadership because I do believe that leaders build confidence and growth in their employees and their candidates. And I do believe that it is important for them to understand how much impact they have on individuals in the workplace.
Absolutely. That and it's so important because this impact really, as you said before, it has a ripple effect. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's absolutely huge. Now, can you tell me a little bit more about what does it even mean to be a leader? Because we hear this all the time. Okay, I'm a leader, or I'm a thought leader, or I'm a change maker, which usually comes synonymously with being a leader. What does leadership even mean?
Well, Shauna, I'm glad you asked that question today, because I do believe that over the past few years, I believe that leadership has changed and it is changing. I do believe that a good leader has to have gratitude. They have to have courage. They have to have respect. I believe they have to have empathy, gratitude, commitment, passion, and confidence. I believe that they need to have all of those things. And if they don't, there needs to be a shift. There needs to be some training. There needs to be some conversations in order to get them all in the same outlook. We can't have one leader leading some way and another leader leading another way within an organization. Everybody has to be a cohesive unit and leading by example all together.
Okay, excellent. Now that I'm curious then, because none of what you just said included the word title. Like those little letters that you see after people's names. None of that includes doctor or MD or whatever, all of those things. Certification, manager, anything.
Right.
So, okay, let's dive into that, because we're talking about how leadership impacts a team. Leadership impacts a community.
Right.
But leadership doesn't necessarily need to be the person who wears the top hat.
Nope.
So how does that dynamic work? Not only in a workplace, but just in a community in general. Let's say even in a social media type community.
Well, I think we learn to be leaders at a young age. I learned to be a leader from a young age, playing sports, being captains on teams that I was on. I've been a leader in working with your team. So even though I wasn't the title, as you would say, I was part of the leadership team where I was given responsibilities. I've had positions where I was in charge of building the growth of the sales teams, existing and new sales members. So you had to lead them to teach them how to do the job properly, but also to do it with a little bit of empathy and a little bit of compassion. And like I said earlier, in today's world, those things are way more important than they were years ago. Not saying that they weren't, but in today's world, they're big time important. I'll tell you something. When somebody goes to do a job interview, a candidate, and years ago was the interviewee who would be asking the questions, and then to typical ask questions, they'd say, well, do you have any questions afterwards? And they'd say, oh, well, what are the hours? What's the pay? How many weeks vacation do I get? Now candidates are going in and they're asking, okay, what's your wellness program like? Do you have a anti-bullying policy? What are your mission, visions, and values of your company? And I'll tell you, Shauna, candidates will decide by those answers whether they're going to accept a job offer from that company or not, just by the answers that they're getting from their leaders or the managers. So leaders are having to be prepared for those type of answers, because they are actually talking about the company, and they are actually trying to build up the company so that if the candidate is a good fit, they want them to be part of their organization.
So you're saying here, and this is very much what I preach this all the time, is this idea that you're never not marketing. So these people who are appointed leaders within a company, within an organization, or even within a community, if you are some sort of influencer or a LinkedIn expert, or all of these different appointed leaders, it is their responsibility to market their role and the company or the name they represent in a way that attracts, and this is where I'm gonna kind of bat you around here, that attracts other leaders.
Right.
So and this is where I'm gonna, this is what I'm hearing from you. And now I'm going to tell you a story, because I want to look at it from the other side.
Sure.
I have a friend who is a teacher.
Right.
She has been a teacher for a long time. She does not want to be a teacher anymore and is looking into other opportunities.
Right.
And now we're looking at, okay, so we're on LinkedIn, or we're applying in different arenas. She's marketing herself to these different people. If she applies and sends her resume and cover letter and says, here it is, and then it's just this little piece of paper or some digital copy of something, that's just giving, in my humble opinion, stats, right? Like, here's where I worked and when I worked. Now, in order to establish herself as a leader, using those skills, regardless of those statistics, regardless of those titles she has listed on her resume, what I was kind of encouraging her to do was to show up in her ideal space, make connections, start conversations, and truly market yourself for who you are and the things you stand for. She may not have the titles that she's looking to apply for yet, but this form of marketing allows her to stand out as a leader without those titles, correct?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay, so now how then, because I'm looking at this, that we're seeing the ripple effect here, because how is it that the leaders in a company are looking to attract leaders, but the leaders who are looking to get into a company may not fit some bills, and all of this ripples out to affect each of the communities from which they come from, because we said that leadership, or lack thereof, or the poor quality of such leadership, impacts those around them and their home lives. Like, just tell me about, I'm picturing this, and I'm actually becoming overwhelmed by the potential impact of, well, shitty leadership, truly.
So, in my opinion, a leader needs to inspire. They need to communicate. And when I say communication, it's vital, and you can never over communicate. And they need to encourage growth. Those are the three important things for me in a good leader. So when you're going to an organization and you're looking for those jobs, I know for myself, if I was looking for work, those are things that I would be looking for. I'd want, and I would be able to tell by the conversation that I had or was having, whether those the company meets those needs and standards that I'm looking for. Because you and I have talked about this before, Shauna. We spend hours and hours in our workplace, more time at work than we do at home. I feel that there is, and the reason why we talked about the opening statement that you had said earlier about what leaders need to do, or what leaders do in the workplace fundamentally impacts employees or candidates or teams' home life. What I feel, reason why I think that's so important is because people talk a lot about workplace balance, but I believe that it's very hard. I know organizations try to do it, but there's always going to be something that's going to upset you at work that you're going to take home. And there's always something at home that's going to take you back to work. Now, I'm going to tell you a story of somebody that I spoke to a couple of weeks ago, and I talked about it on another episode that I do. And this story happened where this woman was sitting with her team. The leader came in and was in an absolute miserable mood. So everybody looked at them. Normally this leader comes in and says, "Good morning to everybody." They were just in a miserable mood. So they said hi to them and they said, "Hi guys." And then they just turned to everybody and said, "Listen, guys, I have not had a very good morning. I'm not going to go into details, but I just haven't had a very good morning. What I'm asking for you guys is to give me a half hour in my office. I'm going to close my door. I'm going to do some work, but I need a half hour just to compartmentalize everything that went on and to get myself refocused. So once I've had that half hour, I'm open to see anybody if there's any issues or any problems, or you want to discuss something, you have an idea, or you want to have me listen to something that's going on with you. I am open for that. But I'm just asking that you guys give me a half hour of time." And that's the communication aspect there, because he came right in. He didn't yell. He didn't pick on anybody. He wasn't aggressive with anybody. He was vulnerable. And he mentioned this to his team right from the get-go. And the team, she said, everybody looked at each other and they went, "Wow, how amazing is that?" He showed his vulnerability, and you can't ask for anything better than that. And they all said to themselves, "Wow, this is a guy that I'm going to go to bat for. This is a person that I'm going to fight for. I'm going to do whatever they need. I'm going to do it. And, if they need and if they need whatever they need from me, I'm going to offer it to them." That's what the communication aspect means to a team from a leader.
That's a beautiful story, and something that comes to mind, first of all, is that it really is reminiscent of Brené Brown's Dare to Lead book, which is an amazing book. And she talks about the same sort of situation, but except for that her team was confronting her about something that was not, it was a communication error based on timelines. And she had to get vulnerable. They had a rumble and they said, "Hey, you know what? This is something that we're noticing it's not working out for us." And she was able to be vulnerable with them and communicate with them and really establish some ground rules for both ends based on the information that was presented. And then, you said that one of the things that you think is really a part of being a leader, stepping into that leadership, was to inspire.
Right.
And I'm going to be here to say that if somebody is vulnerable with boundaries, that's inspiring.
It sure is.
That is where, I'm always telling people that I'm all about authenticity. That is it. That is it. And it's absolutely beautiful. But now we've got this inspiring notion. We've
Mm-hmm.
got this communication, very, very key. And you mentioned something about growth. Can you tell me a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more about this trajectory and how that part of being a leader can impact not only your own development within whatever sphere that you're working in, but also your team or your community's development as well?
So a leader, when I talk about growth, I mean, I think, first of all, there's never a time where you know everything. So I do believe that it's very important for leaders to continuously learn from wherever it is, either reading a book, taking a course, going to a conference, whatever it is, you're continuously learning. Because, like I said earlier in the episode here, things are ever changing, and the demands of employees and candidates are growing. And if you're not prepared for that, then there's going to be some obstacles. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you can't ask questions, because I do believe, and you talked about it earlier, saying, asking questions. I mean, there's nothing wrong with asking a question. If you don't know everything, or if you don't know the answer to it, I would, a leader should say, listen, I don't know the answer to that. Susie, can you give me today? I'm going to talk to our HR department, and I'm going to find out exactly how this works, because I am not aware. This is a situation that's never happened before. And let me take care of it, and I will get back to you. But you got to make sure you get back to them.
Yes.
Don't tell them that you're going to get back to them and you never get back to them.
That's so cool. And I was thinking to myself, it's also, we're coming back to vulnerability. It's that humanness. It's that admission of, hey, I don't know everything, so that's okay. But paired with being, and it's this growth mindset, right? This open mindset, this ability to always receive and to understand that you don't and won't know everything. And that's a good thing. And that's a really interesting way to look at it, because a lot of times I've seen leaders step into roles, and I mean appointed leaders step into roles, and they have a chip on their shoulder. And this includes people who have ascended quickly into a leadership role on their own, like some entrepreneur or an influencer, and they quickly ascend to this leadership position where now they're here to be a role model. They're here to influence. Now, I'm going to be the first to say that everyone is here to be a role model and influence. But for the sake of this conversation, we're talking about these people who have been really put on a pedestal. And now they feel potentially the expectation that they ought to know everything. Now, what is the cost of pretending, of not aiming to have an open mindset and to be vulnerable and to communicate clearly? What is the cost?
Yeah, sure, for sure. And we have to think about it too, because I've listened to a lot of people speaking, and you want to grow people into leadership positions. That's what we call succession planning. You want to make sure that you have people in place to put them, into places that are opening. However, you don't have to be a leader or you don't have to be the leadership title to be a leader. And the other thing too is not everybody wants to be a leader. Some people are okay going in, pushing pencils at 8 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock, they're out. But they feel like, that's all I want to do. I've been working all my life, and I just want to go home. I want to spend time with my family, and I don't want to have to bring home a cell phone or my laptop from work, because I may get an email I might have to work on it at home. No, they're okay with going home, having supper, watching a movie, watching TV, weekends, going to the park, going camping, going on vacation, going to the lake, the beach. They're okay with that. So not everybody wants to be in that position. And I think that's something that people need to think about, is that not everybody wants to do that.
You pushed my buttons, Andrew. Why can't I go camping and unplug and disconnect while still being a leader?
Because people, it's all part of what they call imposter syndrome. And they feel that if they're in that position, that they feel that they have to continuously. I've been talking to people for months now. And the theme is I felt like I had to continuously produce and keep up with things and not let anything slip. I had to work the extra hours. I had to come in on a Saturday
In order to be a leader?
In order to stay in their position, or they felt like they needed to do that in order to stay in their position. And they didn't really need to do that, but that's how they felt.
So this is a shift that needs to happen within organizations and within communities, is this shift of perception about what does it mean to be a leader. This shift in perception of, hey, guess what? You are a leader and you are a human who not only is allowed to, but deserves and needs to unplug in order to come back and lead to your fullest potential. So truly, it's really a matter of a shift that needs to happen amongst all people in any sort of professional field. And you know what? I'm going to say all people anywhere who want to take up the role of a leader, of a role model. You could be a part of the Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is an organization. I don't know if all places in North America have it, but in Canada we have Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's a volunteer corporation, but a big brother or big sister, this is a teen who's volunteering. They are a leader. They deserve to check out after helping some little person with their emotions all day, right? So it's just an interesting, because none of what you said about inspiring and communicating and growth said you must always be turned on all the time and accessible all the time. None of what you said, it said that.
No. I had a leader years ago. I keep saying years ago. It's kind of dating me here. But I had a leader who would walk around and would say, did you take a break today? And they'd said it to everybody. Did you have your lunch today? And at the end of the day, they would say, how was your day? Is there anything that we could, is there anything that we can help you out with? You're sticking around today. Was there something that we can help you out with so that tomorrow you don't have to stay? Those were the 3 things that they asked. And people just absolutely loved it because they felt like they were, and you've heard me say this, Shauna, they felt like they were seen, heard, valued, and understood. And that is what leadership for me is all about.
Well, on that note, because if anybody who's talked to me for a little while knows, all of that, everyone, is marketing. Making sure the people around you feel seen, heard, and understood, which means if you're never not marketing, then you're never not capable of leadership. So it's all in the choices that you make. Now with that, I know that I just did, like you just said that was superb. I want people to know how they can get in touch with you, Andrew. I want people to know how they can be in your world, because this is a huge deal. What you're talking about is a huge deal, not only for individuals, for entrepreneurs, but also for corporations. This matters. And I want people to know how they can reach out to you.
Well, you can reach me by my email, which is let's be diverse podcast 42@gmail.com. That's probably the primary way. I am also on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Andrew Stout. You can see, can't miss me as you see my face right today. So, and I also host my own podcast, which is called Let's Be Diverse, which I've thankfully had Shauna on as a guest a couple of times. So you can reach out to me if you would like to be a future guest as well.
And I have to say that that is absolutely an amazing podcast. You guys want to listen to that for sure. And remember to reach out to Andrew Stout, watch his podcast. Make sure that if you have something important to say within this space, Andrew's a great person to really get your voice heard. So absolutely reach out. Also, he doesn't bite. He's a nice guy. So, so with that, I'm going to say a big goodbye to everybody until next time. Thank you, Andrew, again for being on the show, and we will be back soon.
Thank you for having me.
See you later.